A lot of people are saying that Barcelona were robbed in their game against PSG, saying that the referee decisions were maybe too harsh, or that Araujo's red card wasn't a red card, or Xavi didn't deserve a red card either. Honestly, I kind of disagree. And let me explain why. Literally, by the laws of the game, Araujo's red card is dog show. So it's a foul outside of the penalty area without any intention of going for the ball. His direction is facing the goal. He is very likely to gain possession of the ball. There are no other defenders around them except for maybe Cubarsí, but Cubarsí has no chance of actually getting to that spot to defend. And yeah, and it was outside the penalty area, and Araujo had no intention of going for the ball. So by definition of the laws of the game, that is a dog show, denying of an obvious goal scoring opportunity outside of the penalty area. But I'm definitely not going to deny the fact that Barcola definitely felt the contact in and around his face and definitely went down. He even stuck out his leg to make sure that he was going to get a penalty kick instead of a free kick. These are all things that professional footballers take into consideration when they do feel contact anywhere near the box. And yes, I can admit it was a very soft foul. But at the end of the day, a red card is a red card and dog show is dog show. People can say that it was wrong all they want, but the referee got it right by textbook definition. Even though it completely changed the game, it's not the referee's fault. It was Araujo's fault, and it was Barcola for being very smart to go down on the contact and being able to sell the foul. At the end of the day, it's just tactics. Araujo just got outsmarted. But like at the same time, Araujo had no real reason to go after Barcola like that. Like he had no reason to kind of put his arm over the shoulder or put his hands near his face or even give Barcola a reason to go down for a foul in that situation. At that point, just let him go. Try to cut him on the other side, on his right hand side, and see maybe if you can get a block off. If not, Ter Stegen is going to get a save. Because if Araujo goes around the right side of Barcola and actually wins, the far post is kind of covered. And Ter Stegen's going to have their near post. So it was not going to be a goal. It wasn't a goal-threatening situation at that point. I don't think it necessarily changed the game because they were down a man. But of course, that's like a big factor, right? They're down a player. But I think it was also the fact that it was Araujo that got the red card. Araujo, one of their most influential center backs, one of their best center backs. Him getting a red card definitely changed because PSG had more confidence and had more motivation getting the result at the end of the day because they knew they didn't have their star center back. So they're like, okay, we actually have a chance. Because then after that, there was no proper structure. They were obviously down a man. Someone was bound to be open at some point. And in the second half, it was Vitinha scoring an absolute banger from outside the box. He was completely open. Nobody was defending him. And then Xavi just goes on and makes it worse, getting sent off in the 56th minute. He literally kicked a board down by one of the cameramen right next to the fourth official as well. So now they're down a star player. They're down their head coach. Like, it was just bound to happen. Like, Barcelona were just bound to lose that game after that point. There was still a little more than 30 minutes left of the game. The game was tied on aggregate, 2-1 for PSG. It was still doable, but it just looked like PSG were going to win at that point. And literally, when I say that everything goes down at that point, like, I mean quite literally, like, instantaneously, it just goes even more downhill. Like, just a couple of minutes later, probably 3 to 4 minutes later, PSG score again. And of course, it's Jacques Cancelo. You guys know what happened. Dembele takes an awful touch that makes him go away from the goal towards the edge of the penalty area. And instead of trying to cut out the space between him and the net, which any normal defender would do, Cancelo just dives in for a tackle. And what, like, any regular smart attacker would do, they would stick out their foot to make contact with the defender so then they could bait the penalty kick. And it absolutely worked. The contact was made, penalty kick was called, and PSG were up again. So honestly, the fact that Barcelona lost, it's on them. It was 100% on them. It's nothing to do with the referee. Yes, the referee was a little harsh on the calls, but yeah, he had to call the game tight. He had to show the players that he wasn't messing around. Yellows had to be shown, reds had to be shown when they needed to be. Barcelona just got outsmarted. So if you're a Barca fan, I'm really sorry, but you just got outsmarted by PSG. You can't have two defenders making silly mistakes by the penalty area, and you can't have your head coach start kicking boards by the halfway line. I think it's just common sense. And also, on top of everything I just said, literally 10 minutes ago as I'm recording this, Barcelona had been fined 25,000 euros and handed a one-match ban on selling tickets to away fans for UEFA competitions for quote-unquote racist behavior of supporters during the first leg of the Champions League quarterfinal against PSG. That's reported by The Athletic literally a couple of minutes ago. So Barcelona are literally digging themselves the deepest hole known to man. At the end of the day, the more intelligent side went through. Switching to the other game, it was quite honestly the same thing. For Manchester City versus Real Madrid just outsmarted the citizens. Madrid were defending heavy, and I mean heavy, against Manchester City. They were taking absolutely no risks, and in my opinion, They wanted it to go into overtime. They wanted it to go into penalties. Manchester City had 33 shots in total throughout the entire game. 9 of them were on target. You know how many Real Madrid got? 8. So City were just attacking, and at the end of the day, produced nothing. Erling Haaland was a complete ghost once again. I have no idea what's been going on with him recently. Even Carlo Ancelotti admitted that it was just pure survival after they scored. So when they got the lead 1-0 up, it was just pure defense until the end. He says, and I quote, "We had to start the game strong, not like last year. It worked out well because we scored early, then had to defend, fight, and sacrifice ourselves. It was the only way to stay alive in this time. Madrid is a club based on always fighting to stay in situations where there seems to be no way out, but we always find a way. By the time the penalty shootout came, we were convinced we'd go through." And he was absolutely right. Once again, outsmarting Pep Guardiola, one of the best managers in the world. And I feel like the only reason why City were actually able to equalize in that game was because Antonio Rudiger made a pretty big mistake in terms of just leaving Kevin De Bruyne unmarked. If Rudiger was just on top of De Bruyne that entire time, nobody was scoring. And you got to give props to players like Toni Kroos, Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr., Carvajal, and Lunin is just an amazing goalkeeper, honestly. For Manchester City, unfortunately, it just didn't go their way. They lost in the penalty shootout, which, in all due respect, Bernardo Silva, what are you doing? He was caught trying to chip the keeper, which is like kind of common knowledge in professional football right now. When you score the first penalty, then the next penalty is saved. The third penalty is most likely going to be down the middle. Lunin knew that. He outsmarted Bernardo Silva by a mile. It was actually pretty hilarious. He just made Bernardo Silva look absolutely stupid in front of the entire Etihad Stadium. And Rudiger, to finish it off, well taken penalty. Bottom left corner. Ederson dived the right way, to be fair, but it was just a well-placed penalty. And off the post as well. You have to give it to him. Am I the only one that thinks that every time Doku gets the ball, he just like looks at the defender, kind of fakes one way and goes another? Like, he does that every single time he gets the ball. He just looks to drive in and then it just never works. I don't know. It just really confused me throughout that entire time watching that game. I thought Foden was also relatively silent. Kevin De Bruyne had a good game. Rodri had a great game as always. Kyle Walker did a good job, but another game decided by intelligence over skill, in my opinion. For Arsenal fans, it's got to be disappointing losing to Bayern Munich. I mean, come on. Even though I did predict Arsenal to go through at the end of the day, their recent performances have been pretty underwhelming. Obviously, taking their most recent loss in the Premier League, that's gotta suck. But I feel like they didn't even play that poorly at the Allianz Arena. It just wasn't enough to get a result to go through to the semifinals. I think mainly it had to do with the first leg, because the fact that Arsenal tied 2-2 against Bayern Munich in the first leg at the Emirates, I would consider that a loss if I was an Arsenal fan. Doing 2-2 against Bayern Munich at the Emirates with 2 really, really bad goals. I mean, Arteta said it himself that there was no spark at the team, or at least they couldn't light it. That they lacked magic to unlock the game and open the door when the game needed it to be. And because they didn't have that, they couldn't get the result. And now, like, Arsenal are just going to get the title of Fumblers once again. I mean, they're out of the Champions League now. They recently lost their Premier League game to lose that first place spot. Now everything is just starting to crumble slowly, and history is starting to repeat itself like how it did last season. Arsenal had an amazing run in the Premier League. We're going to win the title, then bam. And the last 2 months of the season, they were losing and they lost it to City. Now that they had the advantage in the Premier League, bam, they lost it to City. And now that they had an advantage, or at least they were still alive in the Champions League to going into the second leg, completely fumbled it. So I don't know. I really feel bad for Arsenal, like, in all honesty. And Bayern Munich, I felt like really didn't deserve to go through because of their poor performances this season. I don't know, but I can say that Arsenal are now going to be focused on the Premier League more than ever. That's obviously the only competition that they're in right now, and they need a Premier League title more than any club, honestly. What do you think? Do you think Arsenal are actually going to come back, win the Premier League, and overcome City? Or do you think they're the Fumblers and it's just kind of too late and they're just going to go once again another season without any silverware? And last but not least, we have El Cholo actually fumbling again. Now, am I surprised about this? No. Is this what I wanted to happen? Also, no. I really, really feel bad for Atletico Madrid fans. The fact that Cholo and Atletico Madrid fumble in the Champions League every single season, it's just embarrassing at this point. They fumble the Champions League, they fumble the league. It's like, it's just so predictable at this point, and I really, really, really wanted a different outcome this year, and that's what I predicted earlier in my predictions video, that Atletico Madrid were going to go through, but no, they just had to be very predictable and just lose in the second leg badly. Let's be honest here. In the first leg, it was a 2-1 victory. They really got away with that 2-1 victory too, because Dortmund almost robbed them of the win, getting like 2 or 3 opportunities in the dying 2 minutes of the game. And I even said in my previous video that going to Dortmund and playing there, even if you do have the advantage from the first leg, it's going to be so incredibly difficult. And I thought Diego Simeone was going to play more of an Ancelotti type style, kind of just survive. But I think that Dortmund, that was just not Dortmund's plan. I think they just executed their plan better, scoring the goals that they needed. Or that was a Dortmund team that we kind of forget exists at the end of the day, because ever since Jurgen Klopp left, I felt like Dortmund haven't really been the same. They're very well known for their relentless counter-pressing style tactic, but that's been really fading. They would rely more on individual players such as Jadon Sancho, Jude Bellingham, and Erling Haaland when they played for them. And I feel like especially under the head coach Edin Terzic, Dortmund's identity has really been questioned, which I feel like is a notable decline in the team's quality. Also, being fifth in the Bundesliga, this is not a situation that Dortmund really wants to be in. But in the Champions League, they've been proving us all wrong. I feel like there haven't been too many standout performances. Like, they're not really relying on individual players like Malin or even Julian Brandt or Jadon Sancho, but it's more of a collective team effort, and they really have gained that ability to overpower their opponents with just sheer determination, strength, will, and desire. So yeah, no, congratulations to Dortmund. Congratulations to all of the teams they've won. Honestly, they completely ruined my bracket. I've gotten literally every single one of them wrong. So now this is what the semifinals look like. We have Borussia Dortmund versus PSG and Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. And this is another pair of very intense, very chaotic matches. But this is what the Champions League is all about. Seeing matches like this being played is going to be absolutely amazing. And I honestly don't know who's going to win at this point. I really don't want PSG to win it, and I really don't want Real Madrid to win it. I would so want to see Borussia Dortmund win the Champions League this year. I don't know what the chances of that happening is, but on camera, on YouTube, if Borussia Dortmund win, I'm going to buy one of their jerseys, and I'm going to wear it in the next video after that, talking about the Champions League final. 100% have my word on that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you agree with me, disagree with me, just let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and I'll see you in the next one.